Hey everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. This is the tarot card meaning video for the minor arcana for the Seven of Cups. And okay, so the Seven of Cups is a card about laziness and fantasy and indolence. It's a card that has to do with not having any kind of set plan. Like if you look at the picture, you see a figure, a silhouette looking almost a bit disorientedly at seven cups, and they're in the clouds, which hence the having your head up in the clouds. And this is really all about fantasy. So the thing to understand about this card is it's not very realistic. You could bet that if you're reading for a client or you're reading it for yourself, that this is symbolizing that the cards are just telling you maybe what you're thinking about is a little far-fetched, or you're perhaps going through a feelings of being overwhelmed by many choices. Now, depending on what cards are surrounding it, you can narrow down which it is. Which concept is it? Is it just straight up fantasy? Or is there actually real choices, but you're just overwhelmed by the abundance of choices? Now, chances are that since it's in the clouds, it's stressing that things are a little bit of a pipe dream. But I wouldn't rule it out if there were. I wouldn't rule it out if I were to see, for example, like lots of pentacles and like the Emperor card like nearby, because that could stress that the cards are telling you that right now you're just more fantasizing, but maybe it's time to get off on your butt and start working and to make that fantasy come true. If like let's say for example you see the figure looking at all these different cups, right? And if he's looking at let's say his goal is to make lots of money, and he is looking at a pot of a cup of jewels right there. And if that's what he wants, then he might have to work hard for it. So, but anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and explain the meanings of the cards in their respective topics, areas. So if you do a reading and you see this come up for a work reading, a career reading, the Seven of Cups is telling you that you don't really know what you want right now. Like let's say if you're unemployed or you are at a point in your life where you don't know what you want to do, you don't even know what you want to be. This is the perfect card to kind of illustrate that point. And if you do have a job and this card comes up, it could be indicating that you're, maybe not really focusing. You're kind of more in a fantasy world. You may be daydreaming. That's another card associated. That's another meaning associated with the Seven of Cups. So, that's where I normally. That's what I normally think when I see the Seven of Cups. Cards like Pentacles, especially like the Eight of Pentacles, for example, that sounds like a complete polar opposite to what the Seven of Cups is. I mean, he's hardworking. He's very realistic. This person is just kind of like in a daydream. So that's one thing. And so that's what the Seven of Cups deals with mainly is about laziness. So maybe be careful. Like if you see another card that has to do with being lazy, I don't know, maybe for example like the Nine of Cups, just if you see the figure in the Nine of Cups, he's just sitting he's just sitting down like on his butt and looking very smug, not really doing anything, kind of almost like he's waiting to be served, and or like he's, like he's satisfied. So, and if you see cards that are all about that, or like the Three of Cups, and you're asking about work, well, this is basically saying you're maybe not trying hard enough. But depending on whatever your circumstances are, you have to tailor it, the meanings of these cards. I mean, it's really all about tailoring it to what what would be unique to your situation. But if I were doing a reading and the person was not telling me anything about their situation, I don't know any details at all, like it's just an open reading, and this card came up describing the situation, I would just say to them straight out, I feel you're overwhelmed by some life choices in an aspect, in an area of your life, and you don't know what to do. Another meaning of this card can also, I've seen this firsthand. I read for clients all the time, and when I see the Seven of Cups, like if I see the Devil, I sometimes assume, or the Moon card, I can assume that there's drugs involved. And a lot of times the answer is yes. But you have to use your intuition on that. So I, I would say that there's a lot of different meanings to the Seven of Cups. There's choices, behind this card. You have lots of choices. And then the other thing about in a work situation, what the Seven of Cups can mean, if you're asking about work, you could be really like scattered. Your mind could be really scattered. Like if you have seven cups, seven different ideas, like I knew somebody, okay, this is a true story. I knew someone who kept getting the Seven of Cups, and it made sense because it was a guy. This man, he was always focusing on different ways to make money, but he never committed to any real path, and he was always at square one, so he couldn't like narrow things down. So when you just have like so many different like ideas, but then you don't start any, it just, it's kind of that's 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 not a good thing. So you want to be able to narrow things down and focus. But when you have so many ideas, and especially no motivation, which is another aspect of the Seven of Cups, then you know that becomes a problem. So okay, so the next thing I'm going to focus on is the love aspect of what this card can mean. Okay, so it's a cup. Cups are usually associated with emotions and relationships. So this is about if you're doing a reading and you see this card come up. Let's say it comes up as the outcome. You're asking about somebody, for example. Like, what does so and so feel about me? How will things turn out? So if I get the Seven of Cups, that would tell me that it's a little it's unrealistic to have a relationship with this person. Maybe it's a better idea to focus on other choices, because there are other choices, and not to just focus on the person that more than likely you probably can't have for whatever reason, and the other cards can illustrate why that is. To be really quite honest with you, this is, I do feel this card is difficult to interpret. I'm not going to lie. Some cards are very easy to interpret, but this can be a little bit difficult of a challenge, because it's hard to differentiate if it's about drugs, or if it's about like fantasy, laziness. I mean, I've had clients that literally just like the fantasy rather than the reality of things. Like that's where they're happy living in. They just like fantasies for the sake of it. And that is an odd thing to say, but it's true. So I would say if you see the Seven of Cups in a reading and it's representing the situation, and like let's say, okay, I just something just came to me. Sorry. So I also did this one reading, and a client of mine was having issues with her boyfriend, and the Seven of Cups came up, and I didn't know there was problems. She was just asking about her boyfriend. And when I saw the Seven of Cups, I asked her if he has trouble with making effort in the relationship. Like, is he lazy? Is he not committing? Is he just giving her lots of? Is he always like, you know, saying, mentioning grand ideas about their future, but then not like coming through? And it obviously depended on what other cards were around, and it wasn't just the Seven of Cups. But I asked her that, and she said yes, that that was the problem, and it fell in the eighth position, which represents who the what was this person, the person that she was asking about, what was their issue. And that was a pretty clear, explicit explanation that he just has trouble with committing. I mean, he did not have the Eight of Pentacles where I could say he was devoted as a partner. He was not. He was just like, lazy. And, I think she took care of him, and it was like really weird. But anyway, so that's what I see for the Seven of Cups when it comes to love. So, it's all about like fantasies. And I normally don't like this card, in all honesty, if it comes up in a reading, because I see it as like, it's just like a way of like the cards telling you that, yeah, like dream on. I know that's insulting, but it's almost like a negative card. A positive way to look at it may be to see it as like, okay, the cards are reminding you of your options, and maybe you're not focusing on the right one. And so anyway, so that's for love. I know I gave more examples than just like an actual explanation, but like I said, this is a little bit of a difficult card to interpret for me. So I'm more like explaining it through like examples, in real life readings I've done. I mean, I know the meaning of it, but it just to explain it like without an example is a little hard in this case. So so for finances, okay. For finances, I would say that, again, this is like a fantasy, so, and it's not a pentacle. So this is basically about feeling like, you want money, you want all that's great, you know, all that glitters is gold. You want all that, but you're not in a position to get it. And again, if you were to pull out some more cards and asking about how to make it a reality, and if you do get those pentacles, chances are it's possible, but you have to do something about it. So you have to kind of know if it's because you're causing that problem, like your actions, or if it's just a dream and nothing more. You can't do much to change it. I don't really ever see that very often, but when I read for clients. But yeah, so the Seven of Cups is about like just being lazy. So and drugs can usually be a problem. Normally I think of people that just don't have very much motivation. When I see this card, like if when it comes to like finances, I think of somebody who doesn't have very much drive. Like they get more pleasure in the fantasy rather than the reality. And it's not worth like all the hard work that it would take to attain these things. So, but yeah, like, I do want to stress that pulling out one card is just like getting one word in a sentence. It doesn't mean anything until you get like the bigger picture and pull out other cards to kind of give you a scenario. But, but like, for example, like if I saw the Seven of Cups and then I see that illustrating the situation, and then the guidance card is like the Eight of Pentacles, and then the outcome is, you know, I don't know, like the Ten of Pentacles. I mean that clearly means that if you work hard and stop, fantasizing, then you can attain wealth. or security. You know what I mean? So that's how I would look at it. And I'm sorry if like I went into a lot of more examples, but you'll find when you start reading, if you're reading tarot cards, and any of you guys out there that are doing it, that there are some cards that tend to be a little more hard to explain. But this is the way I would explain it to somebody. It's like when you basically fantasize a lot, and you're not really doing much, and as far as an outcome, it's just saying like you'll just be kind of left with the fantasy of something, whether it's a fantasy of a financial outlook, of a relationship turning out some way, or like your work. Like let's say you fantasize about being a doctor or something, but then it's like you're not doing anything to make that true, make that happen. So depending on where this card lies in the reading, if it's something that will come up in the future, or if it's what you're dealing with now, or maybe you dealt with before. Um, you know, yeah. So one time I had a reading done with a client who this card came up as like the root cause for something that came up with success. So it turns out that like she had a fantasy about something, but she made it a reality. So I mean, this is like, it's pretty interesting, like where the cards lie. They could tell you um, even the whys of a certain situation. But okay, so that's my explanation of the Seven of Cups, and I hope that helps you guys with getting an idea of what that could mean. If you guys have any questions, let me know, and I will talk to you later. Okay, bye.